I think God has something for all of us because I think most of us honestly live our lives in a way that says, in God we trust, but it's this God. It's this God. The money God or the money idol that so many of us build our lives around. Maybe the American dream that a lot of us have sold some of the most important aspects of our life to acquire. I think God actually has something for us today. He doesn't want something from us. We're preaching this today not from a place of desperation. I want you to hear that. For those of you that pay attention to numbers and you look at giving slides and all that, we're in a very healthy place financially here at a church right now, in part because of the faithfulness of many of you, of giving of your tithes and of your offerings. So I want you to hear this today. We're not preaching from a place of desperation, like we need this, so please give. No, we're preaching today from a place of discipleship. 5 of our zeros that we are built on here at Frontline, our biggest zero, I would say, is this. It's 0 people unchanged by Jesus in our community. That's what we're after. Well, one of the zeros that helps us get there is 0 gods before God. So if we're actually serious about that, if we actually want to live our lives in a way that actually puts God first, we have to talk about money. We absolutely have to, especially in our culture today. So I'm excited to jump in today because I think the passage that we have, it's full of a couple different surprises that maybe you didn't know, maybe you hadn't heard before. But Jesus uses this illustration to actually teach his disciples about money, about what God is actually after for our hearts. For us to find our security only in him. So let's check this out together. This is Luke chapter 21. If you have a Bible, open it up, or if you use your phone, open that up. If you're watching online, we have words for you. So as Jesus looked up, he saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. So here's the scene. Jesus and his disciples are traveling. They end up inside of a temple. And the way the temple was set up in ancient Israel was there was this box. It was this large box, almost looks like a gourd, right? It has a very small opening at the top, and then it kind of opens up wider at the bottom. And what people would do in the temple is they would walk forward and they would give of their tithe, or they would give of their offering to the Lord, and they would deposit it. So you could actually hear it echo inside the temple. You could hear the different sized gifts of people that come in. You could actually sit there and watch people give. It's not like today where things are so private or hidden. I mean, you can give online, you can give at home, you can give in secret, you can give electronically. Here, it was if you were going to give to the temple, you did it in front of everyone. So Jesus and his disciples, they're inside the temple, and what they witness is this poor widow, bottom rung of society. I mean, in Judaism or in this culture, she would have been extraordinarily vulnerable. Some of the most vulnerable people in all of Israel would have been widows who relied 100% on the generosity, on the care of other people that were around them. They didn't even have a lot of the structures that we have today in our own country. They were 100% vulnerable. So what happens is she walks forward and she has these 2 small copper coins. They actually look like this. They're called leptons. These leptons, I'll show you a picture here of it in a second. These small coins, they're like leptons. They're called leptons. They're kind of like pennies. That's kind of what they look like. But if you're like, okay, well, was it really 2 pennies? The actual amount that these would have added up to, according to a lot of different scholars, was a couple minutes of work. So fill that in for whatever is true of you. However much that might be, I'm sitting there going, okay, man, if it's today, maybe it's like this. She walks forward and she has a couple of dollars. And you hear these gifts, right? They're all coming in. They're loud coins, and so they're echoing and clinging and clanging and all of that. And then you hear this widow walk forward and you hear plink, plink. It's like dollar number 1, dollar number 2. And Jesus wants to point out something to his disciples. Here's what he says. He says, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in, say it with me, more than all the others. All these people gave their gifts out of their wealth, but she out of her poverty put in all she had to live on. But she doesn't advertise that. She doesn't share that. She doesn't walk through the temple, kick the doors down. I'm here, plink, plink, okay. I'm ready. She doesn't say any of that. She doesn't do any of that. She deposits her coins, and Jesus, because he's God, knows her financial condition, knows that what she walked in with was 100% of what she had to live on. She didn't give 10%, she didn't give 25, she didn't give 50, she didn't give 70, she gave 100% of what she had to live on. She was making a statement. And I think that's what wowed Jesus so much. It wasn't the size of her gift. I think so often, if we're honest, so many of us, we want credit, or we compare ourselves to other people based on the size of our gifts, or the size of our net worth, or the size of our homes, or the size of our influence. We often look at size, but I actually think it's the wrong metric. Jesus looks at the statement. And the statement that she made, whether or not it was to other people, I don't even think she cared. The statement she made to God was, my security is in you, God, not me. Not my ownership. Not my control. Not my money. The statement she makes is, God, I'm putting 100% of the outcome of my life in your hands. She actually surrenders it. What a bold statement. What a bold move to do. And the Son of God is right there, and he looks at his disciples and he goes, do you see it? Do you see how significant? I mean, I think Jesus was so impressed, again, not by the size of her gift, but by the statement that she made with it. This is so stinking difficult for me. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, this is an area that I struggle with, not the tithe part, but the security part of where do I actually derive my security. In fact, let me define tithing for you, just so we're all on the same page, because I've learned, especially in this role, different people define tithing different ways. So here's what tithe means according to Scripture. A tithe is a tenth. It is 1 out of 10. It is 10%. A tithe is the first 10% that we take in, that God actually invites us to give back to him. In fact, followers of Jesus and God's people have been doing this for thousands of years. And what God instructed the ancient Israelites to do was the first 10% of what you bring in, I want you to return it back to me, to make it a discipline, to make it a habit, to make it a regular priority in your life. Why? Because it reminds you that your security is actually in him and not yourself. Because the temptation for us all the time is to put our hope, our trust, our security in this instead of in him. So here's why this is hard for me. I'll keep this for a second. This is a great illustration. It's hard for me to put this down, isn't it? Can you relate to that? Man, so here's what's hard about giving for me. Here's what's hard about tithing for me. Here's what's hard about money for me, is once I have it, it's like sticky. It is so hard for me to let it go. You know what I'm talking about? Because all of a sudden, here's what starts going through my mind. But this is mine. I worked for this. I earned this. I traded for this. I invested this. This is mine. It is due to me, Lord. This is mine. Why would I give it up? As soon as I give it up, what do I give up? Control. Outcome, whatever happens to it beyond. What about my future? All of a sudden it opens up the door for me for fear. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if somebody gets sick? What if I need it? What if my truck breaks? What if, God? And this fear, it drives me to actually do this, to hold on tight. Tithing has been this discipline that I've built it. My dad built it into all of us as kids when we would grow up. He'd give us allowance. And if he gave us like $10, he would say, okay, $1 goes to God, $1 goes to savings, and then 80% you can spend the rest. And I was like, 80%, that's a lot of money. But it was that 10%, that first one to let go of, is like, but you mean I don't have control of that anymore? Once I let that go, it's gone? That's the point. Tithing is this discipline of regularly letting go, giving back as a reminder that God is the one it all comes from anyway. That our security isn't in this, it is actually in him. So here's what happened a week ago. I hate this, right? Anytime I have to preach on something, God's like, I'm going to sprinkle in a little illustration for you, David, ahead of time, and you're not going to see it coming. So Shannon and I went on a date. We went on a date last week. We went to this restaurant, And we were having fun. We were eating dinner. We were talking. And I'm a questions guy. I love to ask good questions. And so Shannon's like, why don't you look up some fun questions just online, like fun date night questions. So we start looking through. And of course, the one about the lottery jumps out. So I go, here, Shannon, how about this one? I go, if you would win the lottery today, what is the first thing you would do with the money tomorrow? That was our question. I was like, this is going to be fun. So Shannon, as we're eating, she starts describing. She's like, man, I think I would just want to help the people closest to us. She's like, I'd want to pay off the debts of maybe our parents or our siblings or our grandparents, and I'd like to give some specific gifts. I've always wanted to be able to write some big checks to different people or organizations that need it. I'd love to just give and share and offer and make a difference in our family and set up our boys for this amazing future. She was so specific. I'm like, this is coming out of you? Like you haven't sat there and thought? And she goes, yeah, what would you do? And I wasn't thinking of an answer. I was just listening. She goes, David, what would you do? And I was like, I'd buy a new truck. I was like, I already know which one I want. And like this wave of conviction hits me because I'm like, that's the best you could come up with? Like a new truck. And I can still picture it. It's still in my head. I still see it. But this wave of conviction hits me because it's this, man, what's the first reaction? Me. Your plan stinks, Shan. You give it away, then it's gone. Maybe God's saying to me, David, your plan stinks because it revolves all around you. Because your security is all built on that. You see, I think so many of us find security in a lot of different things that are actually unstable to their core. I think we find security in a job. At some point, that job's going to come to an end. Some of us find security in a marriage. At some point, your marriage is going to come to an end. Every marriage ends in either divorce or death. Happy Sunday. Thought about that walking in. Some of us want to put our hope in, stock market or, regular income that's coming in or a house or a neighborhood or a standard of living. What happens when the stock market crashes or your car breaks down or somebody in your family gets sick or your body starts to deteriorate? All these things that we put so much hope and security into, I think actually end up failing at one point or another. The only thing that doesn't fail is the person of Jesus. That's what this widow had that was so significant for Jesus. She had all of the same needs that every one of us has. She just lacked the means to meet them on her own. But I think the thing that she figured out, the thing that she had, the thing that we also should be after was her entire security was rooted in the person of God. She said, God, I trust the outcome of my future. I trust my destiny to you. And Jesus goes, are you guys watching this? Are you seeing this? You see how significant this is? You see how different that is? You see how countercultural that is? Everybody else gave out of their extra. It's just like whatever we had left over, that's what we gave. You know what that's called? It's called a tip. It's just, if I have extra, right at the end, let's see what we have left, and then I'll just give out of that. Jesus is going, I'm not calling you to tip. I'm calling you to tithe. I'm calling you to put your trust in me, your security in me, your faith in me. I want everything you do, this thing that comes in and out all the time, currency, money, dollars. I want this as it comes in, that it's constantly a reminder to you that God is in control of your destiny, and you have your security rooted in that. Hey, thanks for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope it made an impact on your life somehow. And if it did, don't forget to like or subscribe or share it on social media with your friends as well. We always love seeing you, and remember that you can join us live every single Sunday. So hope to see you there.